Hey, what's going on? You're now tuned in to PVD Horror Radio. I'm Brandon, and I'm joined by my co-host Dave. Today we have a special guest. We have the man, the legend, Anthony the Dreamer. When it comes to scores of horror films, it was just like, man, I gotta reach out to this guy and get him on because his collection is just so sick, and just the list goes on and on. He's always sitting there posting like all his pickups and finds. Just Anthony, welcome to the show, man.
What's going on? Glad to be here. Like I
Uh,
said, this is my favorite pastime, so I'm super excited.
yeah.
Very cool. If you like all things horror and want to get the best horror news, interviews, and reviews,
Like, subscribe, and ring that bell to follow us and satisfy all your horror needs. Now, you're an author and a screenwriter also, man, and you also label yourself as a horror hippie. How'd that
Yeah,
come?
definitely. I mean that just all came about just, my love of horror started at 5 years old.
Mm,
So, Nightmare on Elm Street was pretty much my gateway into all other horror. I always feel lucky growing up in the 90s. I mean, most people say the 80s, but I kind of felt like my early 90s was kind of like an echo of the 80s because we had a lot more TV back then. You had Monster Vision and
yeah.
USA Up All Night, and they would show all those 80s obscure classics. So, I really got that taste of the 80s in my 90s. So that was pretty much my childhood. I pretty much tried to get a hold of every horror movie, I could think of.
Hmm. I just want to, like, honestly, before we even get started, I just want to give you your flowers, man, because before I got into like this as a horror like podcaster or influencer or anything like that, I want to I want to thank you because back on my personal account, like we kind of go back and forth and kind of talk about horror and stuff like that. But you were one of the first black people that I seen posting like horror content. And so for me, you know what I mean? I think that it's kind of hard to kind of like step into that gate because I would always see like the horror community, but then I was just like, all right, well, a lot of these people don't look like me. And
Hmm.
so, but then I seen you posting it and I'm like, okay, well, that made me feel comfortable to like step into that world and start doing it. So I want to say thank you.
Oh wow, man, that's really cool. I had no idea. Like
Yeah.
that's really cool. I mean, I mean, I felt the same way. Kind of, getting in. Well, mostly when social media became more.
Yeah.
Because before all that, I always felt like I was the only horror fan on the planet until I started going to conventions and you know, and like say I didn't see a whole lot of people that looked like me, but
Hmm.
what I've discovered about the horror community, I feel like it doesn't matter that much.
Hmm.
Everybody's just here, for their love of horror, and I feel like we all kind of lean on each other, in that regard. If somebody doesn't know something about one horror movie, somebody kind of jumps into the conversation, and it's basically, you know, friends becoming, more friends on top of more friends,
yeah.
in a sense.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. Appreciate that.
No doubt, man. So today we're gonna get into horror scores, like talk about some of our favorite scores and stuff like that. So before we even go further, Dave, you want to break down what a
Yeah.
horror score is about?
I'll do my best. I'll do my best. So, a film score, and I'm reading notes, so you guys are going to know this. But a film score is an original music written specifically to accompany a film. It's usually comprised of a number of orchestral, instrumental, or choral pieces called cues, which are timed to begin and end at specific points during the film in order to enhance the dramatic narrative and the emotional impact of the scene in question. And I think that that is probably why we are so drawn to them
Hmm.
because they tend to kind of give us that feel. When you hear it later, you're kind of reminded of those scenes. And I think, like, that's kind of what sticks with you after. I think of a film like, not to get ahead of us, but like Insidious.
Yeah.
And like,
Ooh.
I think that has the score has so much to do with why people love the film, even if they don't even realize it. But like that score is like a major aspect of the film. Um, so yeah, the rest of it, I mean, looking at kind of like the definition and stuff, I mean, that's the main piece of it. Like obviously there's one or more composers. Um, but yeah, I mean, and it's the term is less frequently applied to music written for media such as live theater, television, radio programs, and video games. So it's mainly when we think of scores, it's for movies.
Yeah.
But you know, I think even with like today's like the way they do so many shows today, like that could probably even change because I think The Walking Dead has its own score, right? By that I forget the guy's name. It's like Beer or something.
Mm.
But like The Walking Dead is really heavy with their score as well. So I think that's even evolving as shows become more present in media. So
Yeah. And that's the cool thing because it's like, scores have this history because back in the day, like Universal Studios was one of the first studios that had a policy with like no music under the dialogue because they felt it interfered with the dialogue and just the whole film. And so that's why you would kind of see like classical music kind of used more for like kind of like silent films and stuff like that.
mm.
But, in the early 1931, Paramount Pictures started scoring films from the beginning to the end. So that's when things kind of changed. And Universal started to do more like scores for like Frankenstein and stuff like that. And, a lot of other studios started to think like, okay, like, all right, let's start using that idea. And then Universal started to use like the same actors and writers for horror films. So they also did the same thing with the music and they went through all their series and stuff like that. So that's how we basically have scores. So looking back at it, like it really wasn't like a main piece back in the day. So Anthony, what was one of the main scores that kind of like got you hooked into that, into horror that kind of made you uneasy at times?
Oh, that's you probably already know this, but it was definitely A Nightmare on Elm Street. That
Mm,
original score by Charles Bernstein.
yep.
Um, there was just something so like subliminal and haunting about that first score. Because he set the tone,
Mm,
for the rest of the franchise. Well, I mean, well, other than part two, that's like the only one in the whole franchise that doesn't even have a cue of, anything from Charles Bernstein. But with the other sequels, I don't know, there was something about it was just magical and just the main score or track that I love the most from that. Well, there's a few is one is the alley scene that
mm,
just hard, just strong, just powerful, you know, kind of chime that he had, like, as Freddy's walking down the alley and his arms are stretched out and he's, calling Tina's name. And the other one is what's listed as Sleep Clinic, and that piece of score was used twice. Well, obviously, the first one was in the sleep clinic scene with Nancy, and then later when she's talking to her mother before she goes into her final dream, and that's where I love it the most. Where she's saying her prayers, and she's laying back in bed, and then she's kind of like counting down in her head, and then she closes her eyes for that final time. I don't know, something about that piece of music is just you know, I knew I wanted it. Something. I was like, I just, I love, I just love listening to the music from these films.
Yeah.
yeah. And like you just said, like in your head, you wanted it. And then
Oh
now,
yeah.
like I know, like I said earlier, you're like one of the biggest collectors that I know. And like we were kind of talking about the other day, like you just had this big haul that you just got. Fill me in how you got into collecting.
Honestly, it just started like in the early 2000s. I got my hands on my very first score, which was Freddy's Favorites.
Mm.
If you guys
Yeah.
remember
Yes.
that.
Yes.
And it only did it from parts 1 through 6. So, New Nightmare was missing. Um, And so, and plus with those, because it's all one disc, there was only, maybe 6 to 7 tracks for each one. So it wasn't a complete, score for every film, which, was a bummer for me. Even though I was getting to hear some of the music, I wanted the full tracks. I love setting my music up to where I hear it, literally from start to finish. Like you
Yeah.
literally have just watched the entire film, listening to the entire score. And once I got that, and I was like, huh, I wonder if there's like any more that, that I can find, because I was a teenager at that point. I didn't really know too much about, you know, going to hunt down scores. And, when I bought music, I just bought music, regular music. And so the second score that I ever got was Halloween, the
Mm.
original score, the 20th anniversary edition that actually has the spoken word from the film
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
inside
cool.
along with the score, which I love. I love that. There's actually a lot of people who don't like when they speak the actual word from the film in mixed with the score. For some reason, they said it was distracting, but I actually
Huh.
love that. To me, I feel like it puts you in that mood even more because now you're like really visualizing that scene.
Yeah.
These movies you watch, a million times over. And then what was the next one I think I got was Wes Craven's New Nightmare. I remember that because I didn't have that because that Freddy's Favorites didn't have it, and that was the first Nightmare score that I had that was pretty much a full track, and I just
Yep.
found that one on Amazon like in 2005. I remember because I was in college at the time, and I
Nice.
listened to that one like every day. Once I got it, like every day I put it in my little CD player I carry with me. Um, and I would just literally just have the 1 through 6 play and then go right into New Nightmare. And then it just spiraled into Blackula, Phantasm.
Yeah.
Jason Goes to Hell was the first score that I ever had from that film. Um, and then I think Halloween 2 was probably next, and then so on and so forth. And then it just became this thing where it's like, okay, now I gotta have more. I just gotta have as many as I can find because I just love so many of these scores that I have to own them.
Mm.
And trust and believe, most of those were like super hard to find. I mean, it
Mm.
was like going into a jungle and finding the biggest mine ever and then just diving 60 feet and like digging and into the ground trying to find some of these scores. I mean, they are like some of them are like just rare. I mean, I couldn't believe how hard it was,
Huh.
especially Friday the 13th 2 through 6.
I bet.
Those those were very hard. Part one was super easy to find. And
Yeah.
like I said, Jason Goes to Hell, I got that from Harry Manfredini's table at
Ooh.
a con. He was
Oh,
selling
that's
it for
dope.
$10. You know, and Freddy versus Jason was easy to find. But yeah, parts 2 through 6, those were hard. I think 7 and 8 were fairly easy because it was by a different composer. It wasn't Harry Manfredini who did 7 and 8. It was Fred Moland who did Friday the 13th, the series as well. So those are pretty easy to find. But yeah, 2 through 6, yeah.
Yeah. And they get a little pricey, huh?
Oh, man, some of them, yeah. I mean, some of you find like randomly cheap, and you're just like, oh, okay. Then some, see some on Amazon that I just want, like what was it, Silver Bullet? I wanted to get $99
Wow.
Ah, damn.
for that score.
What forms of media do you collect the scores on?
Mine are CD.
Okay.
I do CD. I just do it mostly because I actually still carry an iPod. Yeah, if you
Hmm.
can believe that. But I actually download all my music into my iTunes and then just put it on my
Sure.
iPod or upload it into my iPod, and I can plug it into my car when I'm at the gym or at
Mm.
work. So I got all my music with me. So that's why prefer to collect them on CDs, even though I always feel like vinyl they have the best like cover art for like all their vinyl. Some
Yeah.
whatever they do with vinyl, it's like, man, I wish they would do that for CDs because that cover
Yeah.
art is like spectacular a lot of times when they do like,
Yeah.
kind of like remasters and, things like that. I don't know if you guys ever seen the vinyl set of Nightmare on Elm Street that has one through Freddy versus Jason
I
in
haven't
it.
seen that.
And it's a huge vinyl set with all
No.
7 films, and or sorry, all 8 films, and it's
Wow.
incredible. Like the artwork that's in that, it's incredible for each one. I had a
Yeah.
friend who bought it and actually was getting them signed at conventions, and even the actors were like kind of like struck by just how good the art
Mm.
was.
Huh.
It's so good. And I think that set was last time I saw it for all 8 actually wasn't bad. It was like $250 for that whole
Oh, that's not bad for
vinyl set.
vinyl.
Which isn't
Yeah.
bad, for all those.
Yeah.
So, and I actually saw that at Amoeba Music,
Mm. Oh, okay.
or when I was looking for it myself, out in California. But yeah, it's like I said, it's a very nice set.
Nice. I'll have to check that out because yeah, definitely I've been working on my vinyl collection. Waxwork has been killing it with a lot of
Oh yeah.
pieces that
Mm-hmm.
have been releasing. So I
Yeah.
know they've been doing the Friday the 13th series. So I have
Mm-hmm.
the New Beginning, but I want to get Jason Takes Manhattan because that one looks cool.
Oh yeah, I got I got that one too. Because the other one that I originally had, it was a combination of 7 and 8, and so
Mm,
just like, kind of like Freddie's favorites, it only had a certain amount of tracks,
yeah.
and so it's like, so I went on. I'm pretty sure it probably was Waxwork that I went on. I got 7 and 8 individually, and it was the full set, literally from start to finish, and then of course, Jason Takes Manhattan, included, the songs from that, The Dark Side of the Night and uh Living in the City,
Yeah.
and another that rock song that JJ sings to or plays the guitar to, like
Yeah.
that's on there. So
Yeah.
that's always cool.
That's
Because
dope.
actually, because Darkest Side of the Night is actually one of my favorite songs, and but everybody's like, because everybody knew that, and they would come to me and they were like, "Oh, I know you're excited when that score dropped because they had that song on." And I was like, "Well, I was kind of like, a teenager during Napster days, so I kind of like had that for for a while on a
Yeah.
CD. So, but
Yeah.
.
Now, Dave,
Yeah.
what are some scores that definitely, changed the way that you looked at horror movies or just any movie?
The first one that really like kind of changed the way I look at scores and super affected me, and it's probably still to this day, Twin Peaks.
Okay.
That theme and the whole score itself, because growing up, I had two older sisters. My middle one was super into it, and she would play it, and it scared the shit out of me. I was terrified of Twin Peaks, but I loved it. And it's not a horror. I know it's not horror, but it's like weird. It was weird. It made me feel uneasy.
So,
I would have nightmares about that kind of stuff. The little guy,
okay.
in the Black Lodge. I absolutely love Twin Peaks to this day, but that score unsettled me, and I just like anytime I hear it, I just can kind of like thrown back to being a kid and sort of being terrified. Now, I would say like obviously Halloween it was
Mm,
huge, um, but I really love Psycho, the Psycho theme and the score to that. I love how that's kind of influenced like other things, like Busta Rhymes, "Give Me Some More." That was
yeah.
sampled in that, and when I kind of realized that, I was like, wow, it made me appreciate that song even more, and like the fact that like horror scores can be kind of transformed into other things. I thought that was kind of a really cool thing.
Yeah.
Candyman was another one that I felt like the score really like was another aspect to the film that I felt like made it really effective.
That
Um,
music box track, I feel like that's like the strongest. Like,
yeah,
to me, it's like
Mm,
the epitome of like the Candyman like theme.
yeah. I have Candyman 2's score, which I kind of like. I just got it because I found it. But and listening to that, I was like, um, it's solid. And then another one that I had purchased and kind of didn't even think about during the film, but when I listened to it separately, I was like, oh, this really is like something that kind of transport you back in the film, The Omen,
yeah.
which obviously now that's kind of we have the new Omen, but that the original scores I feel like are super effective, and obviously Suspiria as well. That one is um, just classic, timeless.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't go wrong with those.
But Dave, like real quick, I'm gonna ask you, could you mention Halloween? Which Halloween is your favorite
Which Halloween score would be my
score? Yeah.
favorite? Oh, good question.
Mhm.
Um, there's something about the Halloween 2 score
Yeah.
that I
Hmm.
really
Yep.
like. Yeah, I honestly probably couldn't tell you exactly why, but I just feel like there's a feeling to that one that I I resonate with more than the other ones. But I mean, obviously, I love all the Halloween scores.
Right.
They're all classic
Yeah.
in their own way. But yeah, I would
I
say
was
probably Halloween too.
Well, I was curious because I had always, in my head, like, the first film, like that score is just classic,
Mhm.
kind of just set it off. And I would listen to that one a lot. But literally with these, I want to say the past 6 months, I've really been listening to part four
Okay.
a lot
Yeah.
more. And for some reason, which I thought could never happen, I'm leaning more towards that one than I am leaning on more than part one,
Yeah,
which actually surprised me.
yeah,
But something about part four's just score is just super haunting. Like it's chilling, and especially that opening scene, because I can always envision, that. opening scene of Halloween 4 in that, field and all those Halloween decorations are up, and
It's
which is
the
my
best
Yeah.
fall,
favorite
yeah, it's the
opening.
best
Yeah.
fall
Open.
scene
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that score, like, going to the gym, I would just turn it on like the whole hour and a half I was at the gym. I mean, it doesn't last that long, but I would make sure I had part 4, and then we go right into part 5, and
Yeah.
but yeah, part 4, yeah, I'm leaning more towards that as my favorite of the scores now than I am part 1, which is, I never thought that would happen, because I love the first
You,
score so
you know
much.
what's funny is a while ago Brandon and I had like had a conversation on here. We were talking about like music that people would probably be like surprised to hear that we were listening to in the gym. Because I was
Hmm.
telling him like sometimes I'll put on like R&B while I'm at the gym, which is probably a weird thing to be working out to.
Hey,
But
I've
you're
done it.
listening
I've
to
done
horror scores, and probably no one would assume that either.
it.
So it's just so funny to like we don't know what the person next to us is listening to.
Right.
And you always have this idea of what like a gym soundtrack is, but I that personally isn't what I would,
Right.
want
People
to
will
hear.
Look,
probably be like turning their heads at mine because I listen to a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
mm,
So,
nah. But that was funny, Dave, because when you brought that up, when you said Halloween 2, I felt that right away because you can feel in Halloween 2, like the tempo was a little bit faster
Yes.
and everything. And so it hits different. So I
Mhm.
definitely felt what you were saying. But to touch on what you guys were talking about, like how you guys work out, there was an interview with Kobe Bryant before he passed away. He would listen to the Halloween score to kind of get him in the mode
yeah.
before games, you know what I mean? That would give him
Yes.
that killer mentality.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people were kind of like shocked from that. So it's like definitely you never know what somebody's warming up to or like,
Right.
sitting there starting their day,
Yeah.
what
It's
gets them
true.
going.
I love that.
So
I did hear that about Kobe. I think somebody had posted that, maybe I saw it like last year for the first time. Somebody
yeah.
posted that he listened to the Halloween score, and I was kind of like really surprised. I was like, wow, like I
Yeah.
never would have thought that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you never know what someone listens to get pumped up. So
Yeah.
that was definitely dope. He got the job done. He got what,
It,
5 rings? So
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, so Brandon, let's flip it back on you. What would you say are some of the influential scores in your life?
so I want to say for me, scores that kind of like set the tone for me that just changed things was I want to say Jaws. The Jaws score definitely messed me up as a kid because I remember just being a kid at like summer camp or something. I remember the counselors used to like kind of mess with us when we went on field trips to the beach and stuff. And so
Mhm.
Jaws wasn't filmed too far away from us, so it always kind of felt real at that time. So they would kind of like make the beat doom doom like we're in the water. I'm like, yo, stop playing. I
Wow.
would get out of the water. I'm like, get the hell out of here. And it was funny because it all came full circle. And so I became a counselor at the same camp and I would do the same thing to the kids. And so and I mess around with my nieces and stuff. And Jaws is my son's favorite movie, so it was
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah. But some other ones that kind of just, as I got older and kind of like listened to, um, Phantasm, like you said before, Anthony,
Oof.
Phantasm is definitely one of those scores where it was just like, man, like that just changed the whole way that you looked at it. Like even when the tall man came on the scene and then just like,
Hmm.
and it just worked and it just changed the way you looked at it because it's like, dun, 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 then you have the beat playing.
Yeah.
But
You have to have that turned up too when you're watching Phantasm.
oh
You
yeah,
have to have
definitely.
it
Yeah.
like turned
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a great score. I mean, for
Yeah.
that movie, like that 70s tone and vibe,
Yeah.
like, it's so good.
Yeah. And it's crazy because it's like, a lot of people love Phantasm. And we talked about it, like what a score actually is, it has so many people working on it. But it was a fun fact that the actor who played Tommy in the film, in the opening scene, he actually he played guitar in the score, you know what I mean?
Wow.
So it was kind of cool. So he was able to kind of like add in his skills and kind of like work on that. And just a lot of like famous like rappers and people that love Phantasm. It's said that Snoop Dogg's favorite movie of all time is Phantasm. So
What?
yeah.
Wow.
And so you look at it because he made Bones and all those
Yeah.
other films. He's a
Yeah.
big horror
Right.
fan, but I guess Phantasm was filmed in Long Beach. Some scenes like in the area where Snoop is from. So I think that's cool. So, you know, other people like Rob Zombie, R.A. the Rugged Man, and Hammett from Metallica, like that's one
Mhm.
of their favorite like films. And like Dave, like you said earlier, how like Busta Rhymes was able to use the sample from Psycho, you know, the sample from Phantasm was used a lot in, you know, in music. Like Dougie Fresh came out with a song with the Get Fresh crew. It's called Play This at Night Only. You had Mobb Deep. They actually sampled it twice uh, with a song God Part 3 and There That
I
Go.
gotta listen to that again. I didn't realize Mob Deep did that.
Yeah, they did it twice. So God Part 3 and
Yeah,
There That Go. And Master P also used it too.
really.
Yeah, Pass the Green. So yeah,
All right.
definitely check those tracks out, man, because it's like you look at it and it's like you miss so many pieces, like how rappers would kind of just throw that stuff in there. Like they would sit there and produce those songs. So Havoc, he definitely was, you know, Havoc and Alchemist. Those guys were definitely heavy on using samples from horror movies.
Is
So
that the Hell on Earth album? Do you know the Mob Deep
uh
was on? I'll just look it up. I
nah,
was
I don't think it
curious.
was on that one, but yeah, it was like a mixture.
I'm like I'm like mind blown. I'm like, how did I not know that?
Oh yeah, definitely was dope. Dougie Fresh's track was dope too, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta look at that.
That's
Master P.
wild. I didn't even know. Yeah, I didn't even know that about some of them.
It is
Yeah.
God Part 3 is on Hell on Earth. So I'll have to I'll have to listen to
Yeah.
that
Okay.
later. I used to love that album.
See, that's the thing, Anthony, man, because it's like we created this PVD Horror Radio because we wanted to also change, you know, just our regular just talking about movies and it's like incorporate all the music and stuff that we love with the
Hmm.
horror at the same time. And so it's like, damn, how can we kind of keep things going with things that we love? Because when me and Dave met, it was about horror movies and music, and so that's what
Yeah.
we would share with each other. And so it's like, all right, let's also incorporate something that kind of keep us, you know, keep this podcast fresh, you know, and
Yeah.
keep people tuned in, kind of not just talking
And
about the same movies.
make it authentic
Yeah,
to who we are too, you know?
Yeah.
yeah, I like that. Like I've never like talked about scores like this on any other podcast. Like I said, mostly it's always been about the movies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I mean the movie. I mean, the music might get mentioned, like, oh yeah, that whatever that like that score for that film just got, whatever, but never like really in depth
Yeah.
Yeah.
about all the obscure ones. Because most people always tend to think of just Freddie, Michael, Jason, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
just because obviously those three are the most popular. But when I really got into this, like I was really looking for like the absolute top scores I could think of that nobody's really talking about, or had really that I'd ever seen anybody have. And like I said, it was hard trying to find those, and
Mm-hmm.
when I did, they would be like super expensive.
Hmm.
um I say one thing that really helped me in this journey was going to a con up in Michigan, Motor City Nightmares.
Mm-hmm.
There was a guy there who, and I had, planned on getting at least several autographs. And, I hadn't been to that one in a while. I just started, just looking around in the vendor room because it was smaller. So it's kind of like all the gas and then all the vendor stuff is kind of like in one room. Like the guests are on that, like the outer banks, and the vendor room is more in the middle. And me and my friends were just walking through, and I'm always like I said, always on looking for scores, just see if somebody has some. Because I noticed they bring some to certain convention, they be about like 45 to 50 bucks a pop, just for one. So I was, let me see, I was probably been there a few hours, and I just happened to like look down and seeing this guy had like actual some good scores, and I was like, oh wow, like I was kind of going through and like, man, this one I've been looking for. I said, this one too. I mean, I think within that first 20 seconds, I found like 10 scores that I've been wanting to like find forever. And I'm just kind of like, oh man, this is awesome. I was kind of, then I just kind of looked at him like, yeah, how much charging these for? And he's like, oh yeah, these are all $5.
Oh,
I'm like,
damn.
it's kind of like when I was like, kind
That's
of that double take, like, wait a minute, what?
that is the best feeling right
Yep.
there when they actually give you a price that you're willing to pay. The worst is when that you see that and then they're like something ridiculous. And you're like, all right, see you later.
Oh, that was the best moment ever. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, that, you know, Silver Bullet that was $99 on, Amazon. He was selling it for $5.
Wow.
That's crazy.
So I mean, at that point, my friend was like, "Don't you need to get?" I said, "Fuck them autographs. I'm getting these." I said, "Y'all doesn't understand."
Yeah.
I think I walked away with like, I want to say like maybe like somewhere between 10 and 15 scores.
Nice.
Or just ones
Nice.
that I even had a friend of mine, like once we got back to her place, I just like had them all dressed on me. I can send you guys a pic and just had them like I have my
Yeah.
arms crossed, kind of like that Ferris Bueller look, and like
Yeah.
Yeah.
all the scores all over me. I was like, oh my God, I was so happy. I couldn't wait to get home and like download them
Yeah.
and just like start playing them. I mean, it was like The Blob and
Yeah.
like I said, Silver Bullet, Carrie, was it Slumber Party Massacre?
Oh
I
man.
mean, it was
Wow.
just one. I mean, rare ones. Even ones I just hadn't even thought of. I mean, he
Yeah.
just had.
Yeah.
And I remember the next year, because what he would do is he would post on his website like the scores that he would bring to the show. But the following year, I wasn't able to make it to the show. But I knew he had brought that list out, and it was like even more scores that I wanted. So I actually, sent him a private message, and I told him, I said, I won't be able to make the show, but if I like Venmo or PayPal you like money, is there
Mm.
any way you could just mail those to me? And he was willing to do that.
Oh,
Oh,
that's dope.
And
nice.
so I think I dropped like $75
There you go.
on that. And then he sent me a free one on top of that just because I bought some, which was body bags.
Nah, you
Sent me
can't go
Wow.
that
wrong.
one.
Yeah, that's fire.
Right. So then he gave me that one. And I mean, in that second set, it was like all three Alien movies,
Mm.
The Goonies, um, what I can't even think. It was just it was so many, and it was like I was like a kid in like a candy shop, just going through that list, just
Mm.
picking out all. I mean, was it Jeepers Creepers 1 and 2?
Oh man.
I mean, oh yeah, stuff I've been looking for so long. I mean, so I've probably gotten like from him at least almost like 40 scores.
Yeah.
Man, that's a dope feeling. He said, "Fuck those autographs."
Yes, I did, and it was like some people I was planning on getting like really getting. I was like, I said, because I said, there's no way ever I'm gonna find a deal like this.
Yeah.
$5
Mm.
for those rare. I said, no way.
Capitalize on that.
I
For
said, it's
sure.
Yeah.
priorities right there.
Yeah.
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 Nah,
Yeah.
but yeah, me and Dave were able to experience something cool, last year. We were able to go to a screening of Demons with Goblin playing the scores at the film. So I
Oh
thought that was
wow.
definitely different for us. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so the experience was just crazy. Dave, you want to talk about that a little
Yeah.
bit?
I mean, that
That's
was like
amazing.
I didn't really know what that was going to be like, but it was like I was so into the score, like I didn't want it to end. The
Yeah.
film, like
Right.
like there was some parts where like they didn't have to like play as heavy, and I just could not wait for the next like intense scene for them to start back up again. And then following the film, they did like this collage of or of like different films that they've also scored,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and then they played the like the hits from each of
Yeah.
those, and it was just a really cool and unique experience. And I think as we were leaving, I was like, I don't think I ever want to watch a movie without like Goblin playing the score. I just wish I could like rent them and have them play while I'm watching everything. It was awesome. It was so
Yeah.
cool.
Wow. I've never been to anything like that. That would be amazing.
I
Actually,
guess
like,
I guess the previous year they toured and they did it along to Suspiria, which we missed, and that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm assuming they'll probably do that tour again, and I don't know what film they'll be doing it live to, but that's something to keep an eye out for, I guess.
Yeah,
ooh,
if they go on tour again, we'll send you some links or something to try to figure out see what's closer to you.
Yeah,
yeah, definitely. I would definitely go to something like that. That's super interesting to me, especially
there,
if it's a movie that you love. Like, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, like Demons or Suspiria. That would be, yeah, that was awesome. I was gonna say, Anthony, did you see the film My Animal that came out last year, I believe?
and no, I don't think I saw that one.
I don't know how widely available that is. I know that we had gotten to check it out because we were able to interview the director and the writer, I think.
Yep.
But that was scored by Augustus Muller and Boy Harsher, and that score is definitely like really like synth heavy,
Yeah.
kind of throwback like 80s kind of vibe to it. I would definitely
nice.
recommend checking that out.
Those are my favorites.
That's available on Spotify recently. I had just kind of put that on my list. I was listening to it the other day. I was like, and in the film, like the score is definitely like a standout of that film as well. So it's like while you're watching it. So I definitely recommend that to people.
It's a horror movie, or
Yeah.
oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah, My Animal it's called.
Okay. Yeah, I don't even think I remember hearing about it. But I swear, but I mean, that's not new. I mean, I swear these days I feel like I don't hear about really any movies coming out anymore like I used to, because now I don't have cable anymore. I now just do a lot of, like apps, Hulu and
Yeah.
Netflix, and
Yeah.
so it's like I don't, like watch TV like it where see like
Mhm.
trailers anymore.
Yeah.
Which now wouldn't even matter because I actually don't like watching trailers.
I
Yeah,
know
it's
we've been
crazy.
talking about that a lot.
Yeah, they just show too much. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'd just rather be surprised. Like Scream 6, I didn't watch so I was surprised on
Oh,
everything
that's dope.
in that movie. And everybody's like, "How did you make it?" I said, so I've been watching movies forever. It's like I say, yeah, it's like, oh, like I want to see it, but I feel like the payoff will just be 10 times better if I just don't watch it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like being older too. I feel like the
Yeah.
older you get, and you're just like, I feel like if I was a teenager now, I'd just be like watching, trailers, left and right. But now it's just like, I don't feel as pressed,
Right.
Yeah.
you
What
know.
about on social media? Like when the trailer pops up on your feed, we just
Oh, I was like,
swipe real quick. Like, oh shit.
scroll up real quick. And look, even sometimes they try to sneak them in with these ads when when
Oh,
Hulu
yep.
breaks for something, they become. I remember I like went like this or like muted or something. Like, no, I don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it.
Mm.
So yeah.
Yeah. These trailers
And
are
I've
like three
actually just
minutes
recently
long.
bought the Scream 6 score.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Nice.
they actually pushed it back for months. I ordered it, and then it would say, "Oh, be here in like I think it was like the summer." Then it said, "Oh no, now to be here in like September. Oh no, now to be like November." I mean, it just
Mm.
literally kept getting pushed back. That was the first time I'd ever seen anything like that happen.
Now, what do you have that on? Is that a CD also?
CD, yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I have 1 through 6 all on CD. Like,
Okay.
and I had to like go back to get like part 1 and part 2, um, because they I needed the full score. So actually, a friend of mine had because me and him we always bounce scores off each other when we find like really good ones. I bought like box sets of like the Nightmare on Elm Street because they came with like fuller scores, because I have them individually, but they were missing pieces. And it's like,
Okay.
even though, I mean, it could be like, 30 seconds worth of a score, but it's like, I want that, 30 seconds, that's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
that's just how I am. So that's the way I was able to get the Friday the 13th, one. Well, I already had one, but, it came with one. So it was like 1 through 6, all the Harry Manfredini scores. And I had to get that through Dark Delicacies, which is in
Okay.
Yeah, in LA.
Burbank.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he signed it, and I had ordered it, and sent, and that was, I think that was $200 with the autograph. So I said that's actually not bad. So I didn't mind spending that for those 6 scores. And then I bought like that brand new Scream set that came out when Part 5 came out, and then 1, 2, and 3 and 4 all came with more fuller uh sets or fuller tracks.
Okay.
So stuff that might have been missing, like little pieces that I've been wanting that were in those. So those are the ones I really look for if I can find them. Because with a lot of them, you just kind of get what you can take, because they haven't touched them since the movie was released with some of those. But I feel like because Scream got so popular again, just went and revisited a lot of those. So,
Do
but
you play instruments?
no, I wish I did. I mean, a friend of mine was trying to, show me guitar because he's a bomb guitar player, but
Yeah.
I never really did play instruments growing up. I mean, if you kind of recorder as an instrument, played that in school,
Yeah.
played hot
Nah, it's
cross
dope.
buns on it. So,
Yeah,
Now,
it sounds like you have an ear for music.
yeah,
So
yeah, definitely.
that's
well,
kind of why I was
well,
curious.
I mean, yeah, it's weird. I feel like I should be. Because being a writer, that was one way for me to concentrate, was having
Okay.
music, because I'm the type, I can't have it like dead quiet. A lot of people say, "Okay, I gotta be dead quiet for me to concentrate." It's like I actually need noise
Yeah.
to concentrate. So whenever I write my horror stories, I'll just put on, whatever horror score and just let
Yep.
it play all the way through, and then it'll go to the next, and kind of put me in that mood, and kind of help me think, and maybe give me some inspiration for maybe a scene I was writing, or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've always been a music person. I've always just connected to music, and because I'm very eclectic. Like I don't care about genres. I mean, I was raised on R&B, hip hop, because that's just
Mhm.
what my family listened to as I got older, but or when I was younger. But you know, being a horror fan, rock and horror go hand in hand.
Yep.
So I early on I was getting Alice Cooper and Dokken, and
Yep.
then then that led into more. So I listen to all kinds of music.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Is if I can connect to it in some way, even if it's just one song from an artist that I really don't know, I'm just gonna get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Nice.
it was the same way with me, because like you said, rap, R&B, everything kind of like
Hmm.
was there. And then so it was like you said, these movies opened the door. I remember what like Lost Boys is one of my favorite movies.
Hmm.
So hearing, people are strange, hearing like the Doors song,
Hmm.
the cover by Echo and the Bunnyman, and that movie, that opened up so many doors to me because it was just like, all right, I like this music. What is this? And, what I mean? I just wanted to hear
Hmm.
more, and I just enjoyed it. And like you said, all these movies were just filled with rock and everything, and so that's why my ear is kind of just open to whatever. Because I'm like, I'm
Right.
down to listen to whatever. I don't care what it is, like this
Right.
country, whatever. You know, I try to tell my kids that now today too. I'm like, you guys got to expand your ear
Hmm.
and just listen to a lot more things because if
Mhm.
you're just listening to the same shit, you're missing out.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. I feel like you're just doing yourself a disservice if you
Hmm.
just stick to one genre, or just two genres of music. There's
Mhm.
because it's so much good material out there. You know, I mean, I feel like nowadays it's music is just kind of like all over the place. I feel like kind of gotta find those kind of like really good ones. But I
Hmm.
mean, it's
Yeah.
out there. And it's like you just gotta listen for it. But
Yeah.
I still buy CDs, not even just scores, but just I still buy albums. Like sometimes I go back and I might go to get a '70s album. I bought a bunch of Billie Holiday stuff, like Mahalia Jackson, and then I
Yep.
got got Mamas and the Papas. I got their greatest collection, and I mean, it's just so. I mean, people. I swear, people come here and just looking like, "What is this you are listening?" I mean, but it's me. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's So I don't like. I'm the kind. I don't care. Like
Yeah.
if somebody might be like, "You listening?" I was like, "Yes, sure am." Like I
Yeah.
mean,
But
so
that's why I said, man, like, what I mean? Like a person like you, that's, what I mean, you made me feel comfortable to kind of just open that door and just kind of like, I don't give a fuck what people think. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so that's what it
hmm.
comes because, being black, you do something, you're being judged. Like you like that. Like I said, like if I have
Oh
like
yeah.
horror tattoos on my legs and people like, oh, you're crazy. Like, the
Hmm.
fuck you mean I'm crazy? I like horror, I like this, I like that. Or just like whatever, man. It's just like it doesn't matter. Enjoy what you love. You know what I mean? Like I just came back
Right.
from WrestleMania. People were like, you like wrestling still? I don't care. I just do what I loved in the past to kind of keep myself, busy, you know what I mean, and enjoying life. That's what it's all about.
Right. So that's what I like I said. I was bullied in school for liking that stuff. Like I said, my
Yeah.
town was mostly black and white, and it's
Hmm.
to most of those people, fit in the box that they pretty much wanted to put you in. Like if
Yeah.
you black, you listen to like I said, rap, R&B, hip hop. That's it.
Hmm.
If you white, you listen to rock and country and everything else, and that's just like I just didn't follow that. I didn't follow that trope. It just wasn't me.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I just like I said, just listen to it because I love listening to it. I didn't care what people thought. So, and I was definitely a wrestling person growing up too. I grew up during the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
I was always, I was always down for wrestling back in the day, like always. I mean, I haven't
Hmm.
watched it, late in these last several years, but I always still enjoyed that.
Yeah. It's just adapting and just doing things that you enjoy and things that, pass the time. I feel as though if you're not doing these things or you find yourself in more trouble, you know what I mean,
Hmm.
by like just trying to fit in and not being you. So
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Now it's
fuck
like
it.
I said before, these themes, like with these scores, like it even sets the tone for me when I'm writing like a certain scene where it's like, okay, I want this song to be playing while this action is going on for this particular horror scene.
Yeah.
Because something about those songs click with that character. And it's like, and a lot of times it's not even like newer music, it's always like older music I always find myself being drawn to, because I always felt like music and even scores back then, it's like people like really, it really mattered what they were singing, and
Mm.
the material that they were putting out, and they had those authentic voices and those authentic ears, because if you I learned, if a lot of those singers back in the day and people learning instruments, a lot of them learned like, what I learned, like being in church,
Yeah.
being in those choirs helped them, learn their range, and they needed, people to fill in and learn instruments. So that's how people learned instruments sometimes, or like the old school garage bands, or
Mhm.
they didn't go to any professional schools a lot of time. A lot of them just hear it and just like know, like, okay, this is, and it weaves out like a story, like, being a writer, it just connects, and you just know what goes with this scene, or what goes with this next track, or how this music should play out during this scene. It was much more authentic, I thought,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because everything's so much, digitalized now,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it I felt like it kind of lost uh some of the magic, maybe, I guess is the best way to say it, and some, like I said, and it's not all, it's not everything, but just, you know it's like now you see like a pretty face, or this is like, you might not be the best, but we're gonna make you
Yeah.
Yeah.
amazing, as
Yep.
Yeah.
opposed to you actually having that skill. We'll have all these fillers, all these, extra voices here to make the sound that you produce much more fantastic, when I
Hmm.
felt like people back then, they could create that fantasticness themselves, just from being, knowing what they can do
Yeah.
and such. So
Yeah. No, it's definitely something, like you kind of just start to get like a little suspicious, like of everybody that comes out and gets like a big name for themselves. They're all like these super attractive, like cookie cutter kind of people. And like I
mhm.
feel like back in the day, people had like more distinction and uniqueness.
Mm.
Yeah.
And now it's like every kind of pop star and celebrity kind of looks the same in some aspects.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything's
Obviously,
sounding the same.
yeah, obviously,
Hmm.
like there's like people that differ from that, but it just feels like we're force fed a lot of the same.
Yeah, like I said,
Yeah.
it almost does sound like everybody almost kind of like sounds the same. Like,
Yeah.
it's like those voice, like I say, even growing up in the '90s, you knew who those singers were. Like, you hear them on the radio, it's like, oh, that's, like I know
Yep.
exactly who that is. And I feel like we're losing a lot of those people. I mean, we're losing so many. Like, we just lost, Tina Turner recently. I mean,
Yeah.
her
Yeah.
voice, like her,
Yeah.
man. I mean, you talking about somebody who has like a powerhouse. I mean, she would, start off with blues and R&B, and then she became the queen of rock. I
Mm.
mean,
Yeah.
and
Some somebody posted a reel about, and it was Cyndi Lauper singing, and they said like you don't hear unique voices like that anymore. And it's true.
right,
Like think about
Yeah.
Cyndi
yes,
Lauper's voice. Like you don't hear anyone that sounds like that. Like,
mm-mm,
Mm-mm.
just like those, yeah, it's just there was a uniqueness, I think, previously that's kind of
yeah,
feels missing at times.
Yeah. A lot of voice
very
enhancements
true.
now, like auto tune and stuff is
Yeah.
being
Mm,
used and stuff. And so, not
yeah,
saying that it's bad, like if it's used in the right way,
Yep.
like
right.
like
It's like
back in the day when,
CGI.
yeah,
Yep.
Doesn't, like I said, CGI is cool, but it, don't make it your whole film.
Yep.
exactly.
Yep.
Get those practical effects back in there. Make it, look a little bit more, real.
Right.
That
Hmm.
realism to, like, especially a horror film. I'd rather have all practical effects than, a film full of, like, special effects. Because I
And,
heard that's well, like, every time they came out with another remake, well, oh, it should be better now because of like all the technology. Well,
Yeah.
like,
not
I was
Nope.
necessarily.
like, it not necessarily. Like, I don't, like Nightmare, for instance, like the whole Freddy coming out of the wall, it looked more realistic in '84 than it did in 2010. It looked
Yeah.
fake
Yeah.
in
Yep.
2010,
Yep.
where in, '84 they used spandex and lighting to make him look like he was really, and it, look like he really was coming out of the wall.
those
that's
behind the scenes like videos that you'll see every now and then of like the giant like creations they made for those films that were like they handmade these like robot animatronic things. It's amazing what they did to make those scenes. And like I'm so glad we have that versus it all being like CGI animation stuff.
Creators. I mean, creating things with their hands. I mean, that's the foundation of everything.
Yeah.
But that's what I say. I feel like we're losing a lot of that.
Yeah.
And it's like that's why when I go to like for scores now, like I'm all, like I said, I feel like I'm always going more towards back in the day trying to find a lot more of those scores and I am like more recent scores. Like I mean, like I say, Insidious, that was one I definitely had to get because that movie is creepy and that score just adds like on top of it, so but I'm looking forward to like Beetlejuice score because I love that's my favorite comedy of all time. So like I love Danny Elfman is just like a musical genius. Like I love like pretty much like everything he's done like music wise for films like that. I've got Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Batman '89. He just really has like the eye and the ear, everything for like music when it coming to certain these scenes. So I'm looking forward to some of those. Of course, when Scream 7 comes out, because I'm definitely always a completist. I try to be a
I get that. I get that
like,
sense.
it's like I gotta have, because I think I was just telling, it might have been Brandon I was talking to. I just bought. I got Unsolved Mysteries at the con I was just at. Found that score, and then I just bought April Fool's Day. That just came yesterday, and Prom Night 3 and Prom Night 4, it was a pre-order, so it should be here within the next like few months because I already have 1 and 2. Because they just they released part 2 fairly recently within the last couple of years, and part 1 was hard to find because I think they put one out a long time ago, but you could only get it like overseas. And when I was looking for it, it was like I said, it was one that was trying to be like super expensive, and then they recently had re-released that one, and so it included the scores and all the music from when they were at the prom. So that famous prom night song when they were Jamie Lee and Casey Stevens were dancing to, like that song was on there. So I also love that too. I love when they add soundtrack into the score too.
I didn't think of Unsolved Mysteries when we said like scores that really impacted us, and I would absolutely say like Twin Peaks and Unsolved Mysteries scared the living shit out of me. Unsolved Mysteries was so freaking creepy, especially the paranormal ones. I think those used to leave me so unsettled. Like someone just goes missing, and it's like, oh my god!
And then at the end,
they said they just walked out there. We never saw them again. And just from the way that they said, I said, man, it's like I felt like, man, if I go outside and I'm gonna just go missing, like I just felt like no matter what, I felt like somebody's like gonna be waiting for me out there just to take me somewhere as a kid. Because me and my grandmother was watching that when I was probably like, I first started watching that show when I was probably like 7 or 8 years old, and those people, I don't know, something about 80s pictures, like photographs, and they would zoom in on them. I was like, man, that is creepy. I know they're not trying to be, but I'm like, that is creepy. I don't know why. And then they had that, like creepy music over it, like, yeah, what happened to this person? We have no idea. I'm just like, that would scare the
That was nightmare fuel for sure. I would hate going to bed right after that show. That was like the worst feeling. I was like, I would need to watch like a sitcom or something after.
Right.
Didn't it come on around like 7:30, 8 o'clock too? So it was just like right before bed.
Right before bed, right.
Can I stay up a little bit? You start making excuses.
I
need to do this. Take your ass to bed. No, I just need to do this.
Oh man. That was the best stuff.
I mean, I think that's the stuff that was like, for a lot of us, like gateway into like, you got scared, but it was like you kind of liked it maybe or something. And then you wanted to you got the real experience with horror.
So basically just embedded into your psyche, like into your DNA. It's like that sound. It's like creepy, but it's like I gotta have it though.
Yes. Yeah.
That's dope. Now, before we go, I just want to go around again. I just want everybody to kind of like throw out like a slept on score that you feel as though that the listeners should definitely check out. So Anthony, we're gonna start off with you.
Dang, I got like a handful. You like coming to me with that after all these, because everybody out. I mean, I've got about 130 now. Kind of
Mm.
went through and counted. I'm actually going to update the picture and do that again to show. I mean, ones that I really love, My Bloody Valentine,
Mm.
from the '81 version.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Um, Leprechaun. If anybody ever thought about that score from
Mm.
the first film, that one is a really good one. Um, like I said, not having the actual visual of watching the movie and just settling on the score, like it it turns it into like a completely different film almost. Like when you watch it after you've done that,
Yeah.
it's because it's like you hear those cues like deeper now than you would, if you were just watching the movie. And that's what I was saying about Halloween 4. I felt like I could hear those cues a lot deeper
Yeah, I'm gonna
in
check
that
that
one.
out.
So
Yeah.
Halloween 4 is definitely one I recommend. Wes Craven's New Nightmare. That's one of my all-time favorites.
Mm.
What else? Whew. This is actually my case is sitting here right next to me. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, like some of these good ones. Um, we talked about Phantasm. Phantasm is
Yeah.
definitely a good one. Friday the 13th, Part 3.
3. Yeah.
Part 3. That one is, a little bit more unique. I have the original It 1990. That's actually a 2 disc. Like first half when they're
Yep.
adult or when they're kids, and the other half
Okay.
when they were adults.
Yeah, there's some good ones on there.
That's a good one. That one only cost me $50.
It's
I
not bad.
found it. Um, ooh, might have to, might have to swing back to me because I'm trying to like race through and see all the ones because there's some. I literally going through my head in my iPod, just like I could have them in or like certain order, thinking about
Yeah.
what are these good ones. I'm
Hit
like
the
I'm trying to
shuffle
think.
button real quick.
Right, but it's like so many. Like I have so many that it's like it's not coming fast enough. But I
What
would just
about
say
you, Dave?
definitely, if anything, just try
Uh,
to break from the standard. Like I said, of course, Freddie, Michael, and Jay, those are all like good and
yeah,
classics. But just try to break into those. Um, find those ones that are very rare. Or the ones that people don't talk about as much because if
yeah,
those have just as much magic as the main franchises.
exactly.
So that would be my biggest thing I would tell people, listening to this is definitely look for the ones like that.
Yeah.
What about
I
you, Dave?
I have two that I'll throw out. This is one that I started to appreciate like more recently, but Brain Damage.
Mm.
That score is awesome and it's super fun. And the other one is this is more just for for like the main theme. I'm pretty sure this is the one I'm thinking of. City of the Living Dead. The
Yeah.
theme for that
Mm.
film, I freaking love that theme. It reminds me of the opening, where like, yeah, no, I don't even know. It's like just something about that theme is just like kind of heart pounding, and I really like that one. So those would be
Mm.
my two, I think.
Yeah, some good picks. Uh, I think I would have to roll with Absurd, 1981. Have you guys checked that out before?
I've heard of that. I've heard of that one. I haven't
Yeah,
seen it though.
I haven't seen it
Man,
either. I know the cover of it though. I always
Hmm.
see it on. I think it's on like Tubi.
yeah, that's definitely that score to that film. Like, cause back in the day, like a lot of those Italian films, you would hear like, cause it was like I heard that in Absurd, and then you would hear it in like other Italian movies too, kind of like looped around like in a different way. And so I'm just like, oh man, like I've been looking for the Absurd vinyl everywhere, and I couldn't find it. It's been sold out. And I looked on eBay the other night. Someone's actually selling it for like $39. Not even opened yet, so I'm gonna pull the trigger on that and get that, man, because it's like that definitely just stands out to me.
Wait till there's 30 seconds left in the bid, and then
I think he's just selling it now. The
oh, it's a
prices
buy it
now.
now. There you
Yeah.
go.
And it's dope too because it's like because I think what caught my ear when I watched the film, it was more when I was watching it more during the pandemic. And then I heard the beat, the score, and I'm just sitting there, I'm just like, wait a minute. Like I just put pieces together. I'm like, I heard this before somewhere. I heard this before somewhere. And like I said, like with the rap songs and everything like that, and I was able to put it together. And I went and I listened to like one of these 50 Cent G Unit mixtapes. It was actually Lloyd Banks's mixtape. It's sampled, Havoc sampled it from it's
Huh.
called Air Your Ass Out. So
Yeah.
it's 50 Cent, Lloyd Banks. and you can hear it say dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. And it's just, I'm like, I played both of them back and forth, and I'm like, oh, yep, Havoc got it from there. So
Uh,
Havoc from Mobb Deep, man, like leave it to him, killing
yep.
it again with all the horror movies. So
That's
definitely
awesome.
check out Absurd, 1981, streaming on
Nice.
Tubi. It's a crazy song.
All right.
So, uh, Anthony, you want us to swing back your way again, or you got?
That was, I was sitting there trying to think. I should grab my iPod here, sitting right next to me, just trying to go through that. But like I said, yeah, just mostly trying to, like I said, get those obscure ones. But I would probably say out of those that I named,
Hmm.
and like I said, it's a few like I said, Nightmares. What really got me started? The first one, part one, part seven. My Bloody Valentine. We said Candyman. That's a really
Yeah, it's a
good one.
good
Oh,
one.
and Dave, I have Candyman and Candyman 2. It all came on one CD. If you're
Oh,
Oh,
looking for the
dope.
nice.
first one, I didn't know if you had the second one. I did find that one, so that
Yeah,
one is
I
available.
actually I got the vinyl for the second one.
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah.
all right.
And I actually so I collect the vinyl too, but I like I got try to go for the originals, which
Mm-hmm.
rather than like the represses. So my collection
Right.
is not super big because I'm also cheap as hell. And I'll grab them if I get like a good deal on them, but I don't spend a ton because it's I just kind of recently had started this within the last few years. But yeah, I was happy with that purchase. That was a
You're
good
that
one.
guy at the table. So if I buy this one and this one, can you throw this one in?
Yeah,
Like,
it's bad too because like I
okay,
got a ton
buddy.
of VHS, but I got most of these at like thrift stores. So when I go
Oh yeah,
somewhere and
VHS.
like it's a real collector and he knows how much they're worth, and he tells me like how much it's for, and I'll just be like, "Ah, oh, sorry, dude, I'm not spending more than I would like normally buy." Like honestly,
Yeah.
probably not more than $5. I'm cheap as hell, but you can find some good stuff at thrift stores. So people got
Oh
to
Yeah,
show
yeah,
their luck.
absolutely. I
yeah.
Show
said
their luck.
Chopping Mall. That's a good. That's another good one.
Oh,
That's one I
Chop 'em
got.
chopping
all. Yeah,
mall, hell
I
definitely.
yeah.
really, I love that one. Like that.
Yep.
However, I don't even know how to describe it. Like that score is like
Hmm.
I don't know. It reminds me of like a computer game, almost the way
Yeah.
that
Yep.
score goes.
Yep.
Like and like I said, just having it in your ear without actually like having the movie. Like I said, you break things down so much more and just like listen to it. It's almost like listening to it all over, like for the first time.
Yeah.
Hmm.
A lot of the times, which is what I really love. Mostly about scores. In that regard. Just like I said, because they said everything. They said the complete mood. I mean,
Yeah.
people
Think
start to
about
tense
these
up
films without them.
certain
Like
tracks.
think about any of these films without the score. It would be dull as hell. Like
Oh yeah.
it wouldn't none of
Hmm.
the like the jump scares wouldn't hit as hard. Like all right, and I always bring this up. Exorcist 3, one of like my favorite jump scares ever. I think it's like one of the best ones. If it wasn't accompanied also with like the score hitting at that exact moment when,
Hmm.
the jump scare happens, that scene is not effective whatsoever. If you watch it on mute, it's not
Yeah.
going to do anything for you.
Right. Nothing.
Um, so it is super important. And Anthony, I was thinking about the other thing you said like earlier about how when you write, you always have to have something playing.
Hmm.
I'm that same way. I feel like I always have to like it like drowns out my thoughts or something like that. I don't know. I
Hmm.
used to like do that with movies a lot. I would always put a movie on while I had to do like if I had to do papers or whatever. I'd put a movie on that I knew by heart so that
Right.
like I
Yeah.
didn't have to pay too much attention to it.
That's
Yeah.
what I do too. Yeah.
Yeah, and that way I would also like wouldn't be thinking about things that are going to distract me and suddenly I'm like lost in a daydream. So, yeah,
Hmm.
Hmm.
definitely
Yeah.
relate to that.
Definitely do that same thing with, like I said, because without the music, yeah, definitely just I'll pop in any horror movie because I've watched feel like I've watched them like 20 times over,
Hmm.
so they're just always just playing,
Yeah.
and like I said, because they're inspiring too. I'll hear
Yeah.
that one thing and it'll be like oh like then I'll start it'll get me maybe in that particular scene or that particular mood for something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
good thought doing the scores. I never thought of that, but
Yeah. So
try it.
definitely shout out Paramount Pictures, because if it wasn't for them, we would have still been in the silent ages thanks to
Yeah.
Universal Studios.
true.
But Universal had to make the move because Paramount was getting it done. So you look at it, we don't even realize it until you really dig deep into this stuff and like kind of really figure that shit out. So
I wouldn't even. Yeah, I did until you start dropping those facts. I had no idea that they like almost like didn't.
Yeah.
You know. So I don't know if you guys remember that story about John Carpenter when he first sent like the first um I don't know I guess the first draft of the movie to like an executive, and she
Mhm.
didn't think it was scary at all, and then that first thing he laid out had no music, none of the
Yeah.
music he
Oh, so
ended up doing, and she said there's
yeah.
nothing scary about this film. And then they
Mhm.
said when he put that music in that he created, sent it back, he said everybody was just like he said you basically just created another character.
Yeah, it definitely
you know
is.
So I'm like, just to hear that, I mean, to think about it that way, like, the music is like its own entity, you know,
Yep.
that's, basically, obviously, part of the film now.
Mhm.
Yep. Yep.
That's dope. All right, Dave, you want to close us out?
Yeah, Anthony, do us a favor. Tell people where to find you on social media, and if you have anything that you want to promote right now, here's your chance.
All right. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Um, on Instagram, I'm under Anthony, the Dreamer. Twitter, Ant Lost in Horror, and then on Facebook, you can just find me under Anthony Brownlee. Um, all on all of my uh, sites, I have all the links to my books that go straight to Amazon. So if you're, horror lovers looking for, good old, fashion type, horror, that's what these books are, just from my love of, old school horror. Obviously all set in the modern day, but, have that old school feel to them. A lot of diversity. Mine, like a lot of the black people, survive, so that might be a surprise to a lot of people. no, no, just kidding. But no, but yeah, all of them are available on my links on my websites, and you can always send me any messages if you have any, any questions about the books, anything. I'm always down
Awesome.
to, make new friends, social media wise. So I'm always there.
Awesome. And Anthony, we'll have to have you back on to discuss some of your books sometime. Um, so just kind of dig in on that a little bit as well. So we'll
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm totally down
hopefully
for
have you
that.
back soon. Awesome.
Definitely.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to PVD Radio. Hope you enjoyed this. Hopefully it was educational. Hopefully you guys dig into a lot of these scores and have yourself a good little time. We'll see you later. Everybody, have a great night.